all kinds of rules and things you can follow, but ultimately your discernment, your spiritual discernment, is the only thing that's going to save you in this world. So being close to spirit, communicating with the divine, is the only hack that's going to work right now. Hey there, Kaleidoscope Klan. How's everyone doing? So if you've seen the title, then you know that the topic today is husband or handler. These days, it seems that there really isn't too much of a difference. In fact, if you really look at it, there never has been under the patriarchal system that we live in. So that is something, a very painful reality that I am waking up to. Prior to right now, I guess I had believed that there are women who experience something other than their men being handlers inside of a marriage relationship. But legally, it makes them your handlers. So that actually was a reason why I chose to not legally get married, because I knew that. But then culturally still, it was something that I was not able to overcome. So for me, my ex, I am starting to understand, was like a real handler, meaning that he was put to be with me intentionally to stop me from using my power for the creator. Or for righteousness. Let's put it that way, for righteousness, for good, for light. Okay? Because there are people who are dark, who everything serves the light, right? So anyway, this is something that I've been moved to talk about because women need to understand this, or there needs to be an understanding inside of society that quite often marriage is an imprisonment, a legal imprisonment underneath a man's domination and power. So even if your idea is that you're free and that you can overcome it, that you find someone that you love and so forth and so on, that when you get married, that undermines it, right? When you get married legally. But then also just overall, because this is like a pact that men have as far as control of women, regardless, when you become someone's wife, it is used against you socially to hold you down from acting as an independent woman, right? So I didn't even know what the term handler was until I think probably around 2012, when all the Britney Spears stuff started coming out. I think it was around that time, because it was around the time of my divorce, or where I, spiritually and physically divorced. But again, we didn't have legal papers. But that's when I declared myself divorced. When I did my uncoupling, I don't think my ex ever did. So yeah, I was in a extremely controlling relationship. I guess part of my nature likes the very male energy, but it became smothering and extremely abusive, to the point where even now he's holding my children. And You know, he's gotten the support of the system, you know, when I have tried to run after them and do different things. So I had to stop running after them to save myself. But it's something that people need to know, that these things really do happen. I have always been very free spirited, and at a very young age, I refused to join corporate America and the ranks of the powers that be to promote the same abusive system. I'd rather just be a simple person than to live a life that's demonic, right? But my ex was on the other team, and what people need to understand is that we're living in a world that's dominated by a trickster energy. That is the intentional plan, and everything has been set up to cover your eyes to how the structure is set up to completely dominate you. Okay, so if you have someone, you know, that you love, I would really focus on, you know, the things that show that they actually care about how you feel, and not that you are executing some plan or providing some basic energy for a vampire that needs you for that alone. You understand? And really, I became entrapped as soon as I had children, and his actions became, you know, evil or mean immediately in some instances, but it wasn't continuous. There was still a love bombing going on at the beginning. And while I raised the children and did all of those things, there was this idea that somehow he respected me, even though he was always a womanizer and doing all kinds of things. And I was really in a submissive role of preying on it, and you know, keeping the family going, and also blinding my eyes when there were obvious signs to different things, disassociating. But yes, as far as creating a situation in the family where he's managing the money, or the money that he gets, he's not really being open with it completely with the family. Lots of secretive stuff, lots of leaving the house, you know, with no real business taking place. You know, and basically a handler is like a pimp, where they see you as the value, and they maneuver to see how they can attract things based off of you, or how they can get you to give them everything, you know. I myself was raised to be very sheltered. So this is an urgent warning to all sheltered women, because also a lot of times our parents raise us for this. Also, they know what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. But I know from my experience that my parents were involved in this, set up to fall, to be subjugated to some loser. It's like a deal was made, okay? And I don't fully understand what the network looks like where these deals are made, but a deal was made about me. I was like sold to my husband as someone to manage or something. And yeah, to make sure that I didn't have the energy to do the positive things in society that I would have done just by being me, the efforts. And we still did some positive things, but he was put there to make sure that it wasn't continuously growing, you know. It's like he was just one of many agents, but he worked with the other agents that we came in contact with, that where I was trying to grow different progressive things. Because you understand, I lived in Africa for 10 years. I was working with the AU, with the African Union, and that is another story of how agents, attack you. But anyway, my ex-husband was a big part of all of it. So all of this stuff about like P. Diddy and, how he dealt with the women, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Jay-Z, does the energy really resonate? These are the things that we look at, like you have all of this power that's being harnessed, right? Or even if we look at Oprah and Stedman, we don't know. Stedman's a businessman. What is that? We don't know. Jada and Will, are one of them the handler? I mean, now they're married, but look at Twitch and the one who was killed and his wife, Allison. What was that about? So yeah, on a high level, a lot of these celebrities, their relationships just aren't real, So yeah, we look at Britney Spears, what a normal person, really it was like they were keeping her crazy, And I have been attacked in many different ways. That's why I haven't spoken up about all of the crazy things that have happened to me. I'm healing. And so it's kind of partially not feeling safe to speak, which is something I have to fight through, because I know that Spirit has protected me through all kinds of attacks. And I am now moved to speak because I know that I can help someone else who's similar to me. I'm an educated woman with immeasurable powers that I still am working to develop every day. But there are lots of low-life men who are set at high levels that are to look out for women like us who, have been suffering in a cultural vacuum of nastiness as far as for partners because of the extreme hypnosis that's taken place on a high level of black men. Not just black men, but all men. But as men that I thought were my counterpart in the past. Now I don't, as far as black and white, like when you understand that it's all made up, then you just have to go with how Spirit directs you. That's the way I feel. Like none of the ideas of those kinds of things make a difference to me, other than understanding the history of it. So I'm not saying I'm stupid either. But I am saying that we have to look at the reality of a person's heart, mind, and spirit. Because a good person right now is 1 in a million, whatever color they may be, whatever nationality they may be. And that's the truth. Yes. So again, it's really something to think about. Does your husband act like you are his property? And that, with sex, is it something where you have a duty even though he's not a good person? Have you gotten to that point? Because I was there where we had a set time every week where I was like, okay, that's my duty. And honestly, I now I don't know. I'm guessing that he probably drugged me and did things to me at certain times because he was definitely into hypnosis, definitely into NLP, definitely into astral projecting and dreamtime stuff. I had children and I was really focused at survival and on my children, but I knew that he was into all of these things and I allowed him to have free time. I mean, like, my way of dealing with him was to be avoidant and just to focus on my children because at a given point I was overwhelmed. And so, yes, what I realize now looking back is that he had always sought me out. He knew who I was and targeted me for who I was because the way I was bred, I was made for, big things, However, I broke the spell of wanting to be inside the system, and that's when they sent the agent after me. So, yeah, there are a lot of agents and spies that are real on the ground, and you have to be careful, women and men, because there are women spies. There are a lot of prostitutes out here, lots of Jezebel spirits, and lots of people who are studying you to see what you like and will mirror that to capture you, to steal everything you have. Everything you have, including your soul, if you let them, you know. Thank God for me, my soul was still intact, but he got everything else that I had. And I still feel blessed because because I'm still here, and I still have my talents and my gifts, and I have my story too on top of that now, and I'm stronger and I'm better, and I have my third eye vision now. So this is not a sad story. I believe it is for my children right now, but God is still in control. No, God is not in control. Let me not say that, because I've also studied on that word, God. But the one beneficent, beautiful creator that is love is in control. Love is in control of everything. And so that is my focus, what I embrace and what I radiate out, and what my commitment is to. So yes. And so anyway, I don't know who this will touch, but just know that a cultural spell was put on us. So don't feel bad. You know, I had to forgive myself, because although I studied psychology growing up, I didn't understand all of the different ways that I was being attacked. And who can? There's no way a child can know, or anyone who grows up in American society at first, unless, you know, the spirits are telling you directly. The spirits didn't start telling me directly until I got to college, as far as really understanding, like, wait a minute, this isn't yeah, what I was expecting. So yeah, be very discerning. This is a time when there's very serious spiritual warfare. Do not allow an agent to get attached to you, so that you will not be able to find your true divine partner in spirit. That person who's going to feed you and love you and help you to become who you are intended to be here on this earth. Do not let one of the devil's agents get attached to you like I did, okay? It's not by mistake, it's intentional. And the more radiant you are, the more serious they will come after you. So that's just a warning and an encouragement for me, Kaleidoscope Klan, because we're here to do some stuff, okay? And I'm here with you, and I've been down all the way to my very last compound broken, but I'm not staying there, okay? One of my paintings before that I was raising money to come to Mexico is called Out of the Ashes, baby. And that is where we're coming. We're coming out of the ashes, and we're going all the way up. All the way up. Right? And it's only from that place that we can address any of the issues, is from an elevated, uplifted space, knowing that we're chosen and destined light workers to do this, okay? We're here intentionally during this time of darkness. So yes, all you cross-watching handlers out there, your time is up, bruh. Your time is up. We're waking up. You know, and that includes the women handlers, you know. time is up. So I'm very thankful. I am watching my words because I recently have realized a few spells in my language and I'm fixing them. So I pray that this message reaches you in the true loving spirit in which it was delivered. And as always, continue to embody the sacred transformation. As we learn more, we need to integrate and continue to grow and change with the information that we get and the understanding that we get, the overstanding that we get. Watch your words. Okay. And so until next time, Kaleidoscope Klan, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I pray that we continue on this wonderful journey of awakening. Take care. Peace. It's Mariposa signing out. Okay. So I presented the problem, and I can tell you that the only way to avoid making these mistakes is if you stay with someone who you can see is a loving, kind spirit. And not from what they say, and not even how they act in the moment. You have to look for a long history of loving relationships. That's really key. And like, look at the relationships and see what they really are, because it's really, really important. They have gotten rid of all of the family rituals around looking at the other person, making sure that they're on the up and up, right? Some cultures still have them, but they're trying to get the families to not be involved, right? And this can be good if your family is evil, but if your family loves you and cares for you and wants the best for you, then they should definitely be involved in you choosing a person, because everyone has different eyes to see and ears to hear, okay? And clairsentient gifts that can be used. So the best way for you to make sure that you don't end up with a hustler, handler person is for you to have love in your life first, like non-sexual friendships that are loving and caring. So before you even get to be with someone, it's important that you are able to have relationships, and that you're not looking to your partner to replace life, right? A lot of us, I will speak for myself, a lot of people who had very abusive childhoods end up in relationships because you're trying to run out of your house when you graduate because you don't want to go back, but at the same time you're afraid to be alone, which is normal. You're a child, right? So that's what happened to me. I went to college and was abandoned by my parents emotionally, completely. Before that, but I wasn't in the house anymore. I was across the country. And so, I was determined to find my husband in college because my mother found her husband in college. So in my mind, that was my timeline, was by the time I graduated from college, I should have a husband. Because I was at Howard and I figured this is the best place, right? And that was my ignorance. It was my ignorance. If I had any involvement with parents, I would not have even cared about getting married right after college. I don't even know if I would have cared about getting married, period, if my parents had really supported me in just being me and working it out. It was definitely a program that was put into me. Yeah, that college and then marriage. So that really made me very weak and vulnerable because I felt weak and vulnerable. I didn't have any kind of male protection or provision. My father wasn't helping me when I was in college. So, yeah, I only had one conversation with my father on the phone the entire time I was at Howard. And when he called me, I knew something was wrong. And yeah, it was because my grandmother was dying, was in hospice, and they needed to have me come. They're sending me a ticket right away. So that is how much I was abandoned and neglected, because my parents were still living together with other siblings and all of that. And yeah, well, actually, for partially, he wasn't. And that's another thing. I mean, from the way my parents related, it looks like my father was a handler too. In a different way, but for sure, he was handling my mother. It was about her being that birthing thing at the house, right? And providing whatever home stability for him. But there was no love there. And looking back on my mother's parents, you know, my grandfather was a pastor who was married. He was very dark-skinned and married a very light-skinned woman. And from what I see this connection between dark-skinned men who have money, and it looks to me like they bought light-skinned, bastardized women. And it's become like a trafficking system that's quiet, you know? So on some level, what I'm saying is that I was trafficked. Unbeknownst to myself, it's like a high level of trafficking where there are people around who are involved, and you know, you're just kept as distracted, you know, not understanding what's going on. I have always been very prudish sexually, so I wouldn't be available to other people while I was married. And yeah, even there were men that I was attracted to. You know, even though my ex was, you know, not the best, and you know, but I still thought that we were like working on a family and all this and that. But no, it was a setup. They knew I was perfect. You know, and I'm just thankful now for being smart enough to see everything now, and being blessed enough that the spell has been broken. Yeah, that's a blessing. And so I pray that the spell is broken in your life too. Look around. Have you been seeing real love relationships, or have you been seeing relationships between slave masters and slaves, handlers, and people who are subjected to lifelong abuse? It's in keeping with what we know the history is, but when did we start believing that this is what we wanted? And that's for you to think about. Okay, so thank you, Kaleidoscope Klan. I know these are very deep shadow work conversations, so I appreciate anyone who's willing to have them. It's a great time to do some journaling about your own experience. Okay? Yeah.